So we're recording, yeah? Man, that's such classic podcasting to say we're recording, yeah? All right, here's the thing. We usually have a cold open, and usually that cold open is like a bit where it's me and Kevin doing a bit. But the thing is, we can't do a bit today. We just have to start the show with the cold open with you guys because Kevin has had an incident. Here's the thing. Ryan, you don't listen to the podcast. Jeff listens to the podcast. I don't know what you think, Jeff, but like we miss a lot of episodes of the podcast. Kevin has somehow zapped himself into the internet. And I know what you're thinking. That would be perfect. We're recording into a computer. Why can't you just log in, right? But it's like he got onto my hard drive, onto my laptop, and I forgot that at home before I came here. So,
shit.
Yeah. So it's just, and I don't know, like.
So he's not on the internet. He's stuck on the local.
He was on the internet. I was trying to help. I left him at home. So we're going to try and check in on Kevin later in my laptop at some point. But I don't know, man. It's not like again, a lot of this is my fault, but you can't I can't just expect and plan around my friend getting trapped in the internet all the time. You know, it sucks. I feel bad about it, you know? All right, hit the theme. All right, welcome to Anime Binge Club, the show that hasn't been figured out an introduction or even how to talk, it apparently seems. I'm your host, Spencer Dam Crittenden, and your other hosts, or he's not a host, Kevin is in the internet right now, but I'm joined by my good buddies, Jeff Ekman and Ryan Kazmiski. What's up, folks?
I'm going by Jeff Dam Ekman these days.
And you, I forgot, aren't you Ryan Fuck Kazmiski? You wanted to be known as RFK for some reason.
That's right. I'm the new RFK. We got to take the letters back for some reason.
And I'm the thinking man's Joe Rogan, damn it. I got RFK on the show. Okay.
Man, that's great.
Yeah, so we like to talk about anime. I really like anime.
Sorry.
Oliver Stone.
I meant to say Roger Stone.
Actually, I had the idea, when Kevin first brought that to me, I had the idea, we should have him on and pretend he's Oliver Stone, and when he gets it and goes like, I'm Roger Stone, be like, oh, my bad, and hang up on him.
All my questions were about JFK.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
That's such a funny idea.
That's
man.
That was the initial idea.
I think it's worth trying to get him now.
Well,
that's a good enough idea.
Well, you don't know this, Ryan, but he got in touch.
We talked about it a little bit.
With Spencer's show.
A little bit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Roger Stone's people got in touch to come on That Happened.
No, Roger's people reached out to Kevin with a random form letter that said, we want to be on and spread Nazism generally. Are you a platform that's amenable? And Kevin was like, this is crazy. I got to tell Spencer.
We were like, are we?
Wow.
Are we a platform that's amenable?
I think Kevin got the email because he was on an email list from Harmontown, because Harmontown used to have like hundreds of thousands of stuff.
So well, also when you get lost in the internet like that, you can end up on all kinds of lists.
You can end up in Roger Stone's pocket.
You don't know what kind of Kevin you're going to get back. You need to prepare yourself for this.
I'm pretty sure canonically this isn't the first time Kevin's been trapped at the internet on this show, I think. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, but we like to talk about anime as well. But I'm more of an anime head than you guys are. But what are you thinking about Evangelion just very broadly, you know, as like someone who's not into this stuff so much?
Well, I'm really loving it. I fucking love the art. It makes me like ashamed of what animation is in America. But yeah, overall I'm loving it. But this week I've had the opportunity. I've watched the 5th episode a few times, so I have a few. And since I don't know where it's going or what happens, I have a few emotions I've really fixated on, which is I really hate his dad. I'm mad about it. I don't like that girl who slapped him when he was upset about his father, and I want to know what her deal is.
Right.
And those are like the things that run back and forth in my head.
And will there be anybody who's ever nice to this kid?
Will anyone ever be nice to this kid?
Well, I feel like I'm just kind of itching to watch more of it and understand more about this world, because it's getting its hooks into me. Yeah. And I can feel that the hooks are like going to get much deeper.
Well, also, and yeah, just like I'm a huge Godzilla kaiju fan, and this like hits a lot of those boxes. Yeah. And also in terms of scale, I'm like in love with all the machinery they've invented, and like the way that they visually tell you what's going on with their tech without like, explaining it at all, I think that's like magical.
Yeah, I've tried to clock a lot of those moments, but in the very beginning, you see like this giant hand in Nerve HQ, and it's like, what the fuck is that? And then later, the robot arm burns in his hand. It's like, yeah, this is visual world building that's not super well explained. I think like when I was a kid, I don't know, did you guys ever encounter these Star Wars books? There's these big Star Wars books that had like all the weapons and all the droids and all the ships. My friend had those books, and my friend had the Star Wars thing, and I watched the first movie, and I know in my mind that I've seen the other movies, but just for me, my access to Star Wars was not the movies, it was those books. And I think that's why I'm into D&D, because it's just, you learn about, it's like a history book of a fake world, you know? And anime is very similar, where it's really satisfying to dig into that world building that's just incidental. And it's like, we're not here for this. This just serves a story that I'm excited about, but it's like, I thought about it, you know? And I just love, when I was a kid, I did stuff like that. I just love it so much.
I've been thinking about how much it feels, you can feel that when you're watching a show, and it's like the difference between feeling inside of a novel, or I was just watching House of the Dragon, the new Game of Thrones show, and I was like, why does this feel so different than the Game of Thrones? And I was like, because this is a TV show and the other one was a novel, and you could feel that there were all this thought that was put into the world and how each element of it works together and what the history of it is, and you feel that kind of strong authorial hand at work here. And you know, a lot of other stuff, I think a lot of American stuff is more like, it feels like a TV show than it feels like a novel.
Right. Well, there's also, it's like, you can just tell this is like a work of art that's firing on all cylinders, because like a lot of shows you watch and you're like, oh, I watch this because like the acting is super strong, or like the writing is really strong, or like, you know, there's like an element that pushes it. But this is like, everything is so well realized, like everyone working on it is operating at such a high level that like you can pause on like any random shot and look at it for like 10 minutes and be like, what is that?
You know, I've heard that every frame is a painting, but in this case
I wanted to before the show, I looked on my phone because I wanted to set this up, but it's not going to work. Maybe we can put it in the final version, but like I made a slideshow of stills, probably like 150 plus stills from the first 5 episodes, just as like a slideshow that I wanted to like play that we could just look at, because it really, you just can stare at almost any frame of this show. And like, as I was going through, I just started being like, no, this is good. And I just started getting more and more and more. And it's just like, damn, this show fucking looks great. So maybe you guys will look at that.
Like somebody highlighting parts of a book that they really love, but you've like taken it from this anime.
But that's the thing. I don't know, like, wouldn't this be a better way to consume stuff than the way society does consume stuff?
Yeah, I strongly like I think it is important for TV and art to be good, and part of it is I think you should be able to get this out of the stuff that you watch. Like, you should be able to dig further into stuff.
I remember in high school they kept trying to teach us about close reading and what that concept meant, and I was like really rolling my eyes at it in various ways because I was a fucking high school idiot. But it's so valuable to, you know, and also it's also valuable when you're critiquing something to not just say it's good or it's bad, but like, what about it made me feel that it was good.
Well, and it's also nice when you can point to what made it good.
Yeah.
Right. So in your face how fucking good it is.
It does feel a little related that, like, you know, everyone online has like no media literacy, and they're like, why did they showed a guy get murdered? Are they saying that murder is good? And like, and a straight line to that, to like teachers and the school systems failing, and teachers being like, kids are stupid, students are stupid, I don't know what's going on. And then everybody falling into propaganda. It all feels like a very clear line somewhere, right? Anyways, I want to get into some, I don't know, feedback, corrections, and omissions. If you write us at thathappenspod.gmail.com, you can get in. But right now I'm looking at the Reddit, That Happens Pod Reddit, because there's been some interesting chatter. I think maybe everything I'm going to read is from the same person, but this guy was talking about like episode like 1 and 2, I think. This show speaks so strongly about a specific type of anger towards parents, how they can see their children as biological robots and rob them of their innocence in childhood. I love how it's so dark and apocalyptic and perfectly fits the vibe of the 90s in Japan. I lived in Japan for a few years and raised my daughter there from time to time. She was 6 months to 4 years old, or from the time she was 6 months to 4 years old, and heard this kind of thing a lot from other parents my age about their own upbringing. Even now, the culture can be very restrictive for kids, since following the rules and conformity is a big part of it. So like the idea that this is like a layer that we might not be seeing that like in Japan, but also it's like this is in across society, but just maybe more strongly in Japan. Like the idea that parents are just like, I'm just going to use my children to do stuff and I don't care about them. Like that is a very strong reading that I don't know that I interpreted, which it is like that my parents don't care, but it's like, no, my parents use me as like a broom, you know, to sweep things up, you know, like
we had you because we needed a cleaner.
Yeah. Which I've been dealing with stuff like that recently about like, man, my parents had me to solve a problem and that's like the robot that passes butter and that's fucked. Like that's not why someone should have kids. Anyway, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, this just feels like sort of tangentially related, but maybe like an interesting area of thought is like, I've seen a lot of commentary in the West about how subsequent generations have been sort of ruined since World War II because like the aftershock of World War II causes all of these feelings of like, my parents don't know how to treat a person. And it's like, well, because they're traumatized and the trauma like sort of descends down. And I wonder if this like has any relevance to that of like,
I bet it does.
This show is obviously steeped in that. And, you know, maybe this attitude was very prevalent in post of just like this coldness and the like, you know, in the face of this like horrible brutality of the lives that they've been through.
Yeah, I just think like there's just this world of society where like everyone grows up too soft for the times they're in, and what that does is it makes them have trauma, and then it makes them see other people doing better because society has caught up and being like, why wasn't that there when I was here? And instead of saying like, that's so good, we've made progress, they go like, that's fucked up, they should be hurt too. And it's like, no, you're so close. You're so close.
Yeah. That tendency that people have of like, well, I went through that horrible thing, so you also should.
And I mean, on this show, it's like, I love how it's drawn out because it's like, you don't really blame the adults for doing this because it seems like they have to.
As far
like,
as what
we haven't seen that much yet. I don't know the full truth of the angels or anything, but like, yeah, you understand that this situation is not just like an adult being a psychopath. It's like the reality of this world like demands that you be this way for reasons that are
that maybe aren't good.
You know, maybe the ultimate answer is that humans are uniquely bad at dealing with stress and we end up doing insane things. But like, you know,
I was thinking recently that like, I feel like one of my problems is that I'm more animal-like than other people in the way I deal like with stress. And I would like watch rabbits and animals like react to noises and be like, I'm more like that than normal people. And that's part of my problem. I'm sure of it. So another comment that was left is one thing I wanted to add. This was about the episode we discussed last episode, episode 4. The scene when Shinji was in the theater at night. That's a common way to pass time at night in the city until trains start up in the morning. People who stay up all night in Tokyo go to an internet cafe or karaoke bar or movie place and stay up drinking instead of getting a hotel for the night. And that's also where you start to see all the homeless people that weren't there during the day. I guess for me, it's implying that he's homeless. I think they're referring specifically to the guy reading the book. So like that guy, if you remember in the movie theater, that guy reading the book was maybe homeless. I mean, other people in that, there's like a guy that was clearly homeless, but that guy is maybe more a middling case. Or he was just waiting for his train in the morning or something. I don't know.
This is maybe a weird question, but like, does homelessness in that time and place have a different meaning than it does like here and now? Because my understanding of like in the 30s, during the Depression, it was such a common thing for people to not have a home that like our perspective on what it meant to be homeless was like very different.
In the 90s?
I said the 30s.
Yeah, no. I mean like in this.
If anything, I would guess if there's symbolism, it's probably like post-war Japan stuff. You know, it's like displacement in that. But or it's just normal stuff.
I guess it's Japan in the 90s. Yeah, I don't really know what that's like.
Yeah, so I would just say it's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Like,
but
pretty standard
I totally buy that because it feels like it's like normal. Like it doesn't feel like it's, you know, I didn't really understand like, oh, what are these people doing in the movie theater? But having that cultural context, like, it feels very natural.
And now that you mention it, like, other than the classroom, the home scenes, like with Misato's apartment, and then that scene are some of the most normal real life sequences in the whole show to this point. Everything else has been very alien and bizarre, but the classroom is like, it stands out because it is normal. And then the home is the same. And so it's like, it's like this juxtaposition of like normalcy and bizarre like post-apocalypse.
Well, it's one of the things that throws me off about the show is like whenever there's any normal life going on, I'm like, wait, why is this kid allowed to go to school? He's just allowed, he can decide to leave this apartment. I thought he was like a military asset, but then I'm like, oh right, it's a coming of age anime. like he has a life.
Yeah, well, on some level, I think part of it is like maybe there's just not that many people because it's very not clear how many people exist that aren't explicit military. So if like all of those people are on the job, then they're not watching her. It's Misato's job to watching her, but we know she's
and
bad.
The city
she's sloppy.
Does feel kind of abandoned.
I was literally about to ask that question.
It's possible that only the kid. It's possible, and I don't know, but it's possible that the school only exists because the children of government agents need an education, and so they got a teacher. Like I don't know, and I don't know what the official answer, but at this point, that's a reasonable read of the situation.
And because there's so many giant buildings and like these apartment buildings that seem huge for huge numbers of people, but it also seems pretty empty.
It's too empty. There's no people.
So it's got to be. So
other than that,
did they specifically evacuate the city, or is it like there's this many people left from after Tokyo 1 and 2?
I wonder. What were you going to say? Yeah, but we don't know. Yeah.
Oh, and I was going to say it's not like it totally takes me out of or anything. It's just the other stuff is so extreme that whenever there's anything like normal presented, I'm like, I can't believe they have anything normal in their life.
Yeah, like hanging out waiting for a train.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's crack into the episode then. I'm going to get my notes. So it starts with the Unit 0. That's the orange robot getting powered up. It's going through a test, and part of the power-up test is like it has to pass the borderline, which it seems like, I don't know if you guys have reads on this, but it seems like it's like Pacific Rim, where they're synchronizing brain waves with the EVA, and the I guess when it like actually starts moving or something, like once it is like hits the borderline, that's when it's
the
supposed
threshold
to work.
That you're synchronized.
Yeah, at first I thought it was like, oh, it's going into the red, we don't want that, but it's like, no, you need to pass the borderline, and the problem was it didn't get consistent after it. Anyway, this is all minutia. But so it's interesting because it starts moving and it sounds like it's like howling or something. It makes noises and it's like in pain. It's like, it's so awesome, like those shots of like a robot holding its head, like it's having a headache. Robots don't have headaches, I don't know. I just like, there's something very powerful about some of that imagery.
Well, it's like, I haven't seen that much yet, but it's like so clear that something about these things is alive. And I just find that interesting. I love the like visual way they communicate the link up of those little slots connecting together.
Yeah, and those are like synapses.
See, and it's like it like visually communicates like each nerve system you have is connecting up and like verifying the connection or whatever.
Yeah, which is very Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
But another thing is, I don't know if we talked about this, but at this point we've watched this episode so many times. But like, so when in the startup test, you see like the silhouette like of the body on the readouts and all of these like scroll of like all these body parts of the EVA and stuff syncing up, and it says like tarsals and metatarsals and tonsils, and it says
it
like
gets into
white
such details.
corpuscles or something, like
it gets into right and left buttock.
Well, like even right and left buttocks is like maybe there's synthetic robot muscles. But tonsil is a robot does not need a tonsil.
Well, what that says to me is that literally every nerve in your body is mapped to something inside of this machine.
Right. It also made me wonder, like, how granular. Why not get even more granular? Like, why not have it be cellular? Every cell in your body winds up connecting to the other cells in its body?
Well, because they're nerve things, right? So you're probably just like segments.
NERV.
Yeah. I think the idea is it's brain based. Other than that, I don't know. But there is.
I think it's funny to be like, no, each chunk of the body has to synchronize.
But also, it's like it's kind of revealed, not explicitly at this point, but we know it's not just a robot because at this point it's had an eye that grows. So it's biological. But like, it is still really cool that it's like, no, this isn't a robot. It has tonsils, and we need to monitor the tonsils, otherwise it'll go crazy and punch the wall.
If the tonsils aren't synchronized, everything's fucked.
Yeah, so it tries to break free. They cut the power feed, but just like in the last episode, it still has power because it just has a battery. And so it starts punching the glass. It does seem like it's attacking Gendo specifically. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but like that shot is so great. That shot where you can't see his eyes through his like shaded glasses. He's just standing like really like pissed or whatever, and then the punch comes in. It's such a fucking good shot, dude.
I didn't catch that it was specifically going after
who
him.
knows?
but I totally believe that I would have seen that in this, like on a second viewing.
And he's totally standing there with this expression like he expects to be killed by one of these things
like
someday.
He wants it to happen.
Like he's like, I deserve this. Is how it feels to me. I don't know if I'm reading too much into that.
No, that's how it reads, I think. The thing is, like, there's stuff I remember and stuff I don't, and like also I'm trying to play it straight too. But like, so there's stuff that I know, but also there's stuff I forgot. But also just earnestly from a zero standpoint, it does look like that. I think it reads really strongly like that. Who knows where it goes? But so they eject the pilot plug. They shoot this bakelite foam, which I'd have to look up what bakelite is.
Yeah, well, this is one of my favorite like visual tech tellings. Was like the method, but they used to stop the out of control Eva, like the foam stuff that hardens. I thought that was like so awesome.
But that's not. There's a lot of tech stuff that happens because they eject the cord, and the cord has jump jets, so it doesn't hit the ground too hard. It has little boosters that slow its descent, so it doesn't hit because it's a giant fucking power cord, but it can't just hit the ground, but you have to unplug it. That's crazy.
All of the NASA escape pods that happen like from launch, when you can grab a thing and pull it, they all have rockets in case they land on land. And also the Russian rockets, when they land on Earth in the pod, because they don't land in the water like we do, they have to have rockets that fire when it's like a meter off of the ground. And so, yeah, it's just like...
That's wild.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. And so then they eject the pilot plug, and the pilot plug has jets. It doesn't have a parachute, which doesn't seem like a good idea because what it does is it fires off into the corner, and if it was outside, it would fire off straight up into the air.
Right.
And then what? Like,
I got the feeling that it would fly some distance, like it would go really far, and then like, kind of bury itself into the ground.
Well, that's the thing about the comparison to the NASA escape things, because they were trying to get the astronauts away from a theoretically exploding rocket that was below them. So it is just like, fire them away.
To your point, it doesn't seem safe.
No,
like it doesn't seem like this would do anything but like get your body far away.
But that's exactly. It's really interesting because it looks really cool, and it's very visual, and you're following it, and you're like, holy shit, this looks crazy. And then it goes in the corner, and I think like where your mind is like, I bet it would go in the corner like that, and you're thinking of like a balloon that you let off in the house or something. Yeah. And then you're like, and then it's starting to fall, and then like Gendo starts going like, oh fuck, and then you're like, wait, no, she's just falling from like 100 meters in the air.
That room is
straight
so tall.
Down. Yeah, and it's so like, I feel like by the time you're kind of like, I think it's really cool because I feel like the audience is with the character of Gendo there, where it's like, this is crazy, what the fuck's going on? And then it's like, oh no, she could die. And then so that's what's charging him when the next moment, right? That's just so it lands, the backlight streams in, and it starts to harden or whatever, and it stops the machine. It starts the Eva stops moving. Gendo runs in, he grabs the thing, it's way too hot, it burns his hands. It's this really dramatic scene. He pulls it off even though it burns his hands, and he saves Ray, and Ray's okay, and his glasses fall off, and they fucking break, which is so melt. Crazy.
No, they don't just break.
Yeah, this is something I can't decide on. Is it the heat is melting them? Does this liquid have some kind of caustic...
Yeah,
anyway,
me and Ryan
went back and forth in my head.
I thought it was melting because of the heat.
Well, it's melting.
It's also like it would have ripped his skin off.
I'm like, if it's that hot that these glasses are melting, wouldn't they be dying?
They would be dying. Well, and I just figured it was like, it's an anime. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I just had that thought, like, reason. So it's like the outside we know is hot. The outside has to be hot, otherwise it doesn't burn him. But so does that mean the outside's always hot? Why is the outside hot? Is the inside hot? Is that orange stuff is called LCL, I think. Is the LCL hot? Because I would believe it if the LCL melted the glasses and cracked the glasses, or I would believe that the LCL was being heated by the superheated outside of the pod, which is directly touching. So it's like, and then I'm like, but why is it hot? It shouldn't be hot. Is it hot?
I thought maybe it was even heated. I was unsure about this, but maybe it was heated on the outside from the friction of it, like going into that corner and then going to the other corner.
Or the fire of the jump jets or something.
Yeah, all of those things together making like the outside of this thing. But the heat that it indicates.
Yeah, no, the way he burns his hand on that thing, it's like it came in through the atmosphere.
Exactly.
Like the whole thing is so hot. I think the inside of the, I think the inside of the Eva.
I just suspended my disbelief believe for the burns.
I think the inside of the Eva is mega hot, and it's got to be that the inside of that container is not hot, and the liquid was heating up as it seeped out.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just I never had that thought before.
I mean, it could also just not make sense, but I think...
But hey, it's fun to talk about. And so then they talk about so Ray's fine, she's safe, and then they talk about her a little bit. She's the first children. So I don't. He's the third children, right? Isn't Shinji the third children, or is Shinji the second children? And they're looking for the. I don't know. Shinji's the third children.
And then there's like a theoretical fourth pilot.
Yeah, I think they were looking for the fourth children. And then so that means there's a second children who's missing right now. But that all just means they can't find anyone who can drive the robot. Shinji can drive the robot, and he's maybe the third one that they found. And then Rei can drive the robot, and she's maybe the first that they've found. So that's a detail. They're all 14. All the children are 14. Like all the numbered children like this are 14. That's some weird part about it. Her past has been wiped clean. It's not clear if that means that like the government deleted her records, or they just don't know anything about her. She's like a blank slate. Like it's not clear whether they mean like her records have been wiped or no one knows what her deal is, and they think that the bot went nuts is because her mental state's unstable. They think like, oh, I wonder if something's going on with her, and they don't know why. And I think we get the sense, there's like a shot that we get the sense that she's thinking about Shinji for some reason. I can't remember why, but I think that like there's some reason to realize that. But so that's that kind of shot of like the shutdown shot. And then there's that shot of the crucifix coming out of the Unit Zero. Did you guys remember that? That dark shot? Did you have a read on what that was?
This show seems to use a lot of Western religious iconography. I don't know why the crucifix. I think it's part of the Eva, right? But like I don't know what.
I'm not sure. I don't know, but like it's just a static shot, so there's not a lot of angles. But it looked like it was coming out of the hole that the pilot plug was in. But it was instead of the pilot plug, there's just a crucifix coming out of it, which is like I wonder if they're like holding it in place using like a crucifix, like it's being like
it's like a T mechanism that like locks into place.
Yeah, but it just happens to be like a divine, like anointed anchor of God or something. I don't know, but it just like it's super unclear what that's supposed to be. But all it reads, like, to me, that's all I can think of.
It's like a mega provocative image, and I have no idea what it means.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of this stuff is he just thought it looked cool, which is interesting because a lot of Japanese stuff is religious on purpose. So, but this doesn't seem to be, as far as a lot of Japanese stuff.
Reminds me, I think like Bob Dylan was asked a bunch of stuff about his lyrics once. I heard this many years ago, and like his response was like, "I just thought it sounded good."
Yeah,
like something like that, where like it's like, what did you mean when you said this thing? And he's like, I don't know, it just went well together.
And even if you knew something at that time, you don't know anymore. Like it's all gone. Like anyway, so they're dissecting the angel. It looks pretty cool. Shinji's got this hard hat on. That's like Mega Man has that same hard hat in a lot. So it's like this funny like a hard hat thing. They mention that angel bodies are a particle and a wave at the same time, like light is. That's just so cool. I don't know.
That's great.
I just like the science of it. That they talk about like that a couple times. It's just kind of fun. I don't know. Was there like basically what happens in this scene is that, they see Shinji sees his dad's burns and is like, what's going on? And then Masato notices and she's like, what's your deal? And he's like, nothing. And she's like, shut the fuck up. You want us to pay attention to you right now.
You wouldn't be acting like this if you didn't want attention.
And he's like, no, I just saw something that surprised me and you noticed me noticing. Like, that's not a big deal. But so, they find out that
they need to get off his case. That's what I want. I want people to get off his case. He's trying to fucking save humanity here.
Yeah. I think some of Masato's stuff is more justified, but that is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's not even, because later she does the same thing with Rei, and it's like, that's a little bit more, but this is like, what do you mean? He just looked at something. Like, what are you talking about?
It is annoying. Like, I used to work in an office, and there was somebody like in the cubicle across from me who would always like make like noises that they clearly wanted you to ask them about.
Yeah.
Like,
oh. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I hate those people.
And you're just like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, just say it. Just say it. Just come over and say it.
You obviously want attention.
Yeah,
I also in this moment, because they tell him, your dad burned his hands saving, the other pilot. Yeah. And I'm like, are they completely unaware of his fucked relationship with his father? Did they think about the like what? Because she says it to him like, "Oh, this is gonna hurt. I'm gonna say it anyway." And I don't know if I'm reading into that because I know how much it's gonna hurt, but like. They tell him this like devastating information.
I think you're right. So it's interesting because I don't think Masato was at that test because Masato, I don't think is super into like the science wing of it, whereas the scientist lady is. That's Ritsuko. But Ritsuko is the one who tells him it was during this test. And Ritsuko also like has a past with like Gendo and knows Rei. Like later in the scene, he says, "Oh, she's all thumbs like her, like your father or whatever." And then also there's this shot where when Gendo is ripping open the door to the pilot plug, like there's this long shot on Ritsuko where she just looks aghast. Like, I don't know if you caught that because it just looks like, oh no, reaction shot. But like she has this really kind of like horrified, wounded look on her face, which is interesting, especially when she later kind of is talking about, oh, she's just like Shinji's dad. Like he's just like Shinji's dad. Like, oh, just kind of dreamy almost,
Yeah, I very much want to know more about that.
Yeah. So, but so all of this is to say, I think Ritsuko might understand a little bit that revealing this information would hurt Shinji, but was like, well, what am I going to lie?
Yeah, it had this tone of like, oh, he should like know this.
Yeah,
exactly. It wasn't delivered in the like
you should talk to your parents about
way,
this sort of thing.
Anyway, I mean,
no, I agree. I think that's really important. But so it sets up. He puts his life at risk to save Rei, and that clocks Shinji weird because Shinji's like, wait, I don't think of my dad as a person who cares about humans. This is the first emotion I've ever seen my dad give to anybody, and he's put himself in personal danger to save this random girl I know nothing about, other than she's mysterious. And the first time I saw her, she was almost dying because they put her in a robot, and then they put me in a robot. That's like the subtext of what is going through his mind when he's seeing those scars and being told the story, and no one's clocking that. Like he's just going insane right now.
Well, and it puts in his head like. You can almost see him thinking like, I don't think he'd do that for me.
Yes, exactly.
And then the rest of the episode like reinforces this.
Exactly. Which of course they don't see it. We talk about how dense this show is. Like there's so many different things that one moment is all at once. Like, and you could talk about any one of them forever. I'm going to move to the next scene unless you have anything else.
No.
All right. Pool day. It's a pool day at school. It's a Japanese anime trope. Classic anime trope. Pool day.
My favorite thing about the pool day scene is that the subtitles and the dubs have different words for boobies. And so simultaneously you hear them say bazungas while knockers is like written on the screen.
Knockers is a classic one for subtitling. I think maybe the term is opai, which just means like boobs, kind of like a gross kind of vulgar way to say boobs. But I think like it often gets translated as knockers specifically, which is again such a specific like
I guess
American
if you're choosing, you got to put it on TV. You're probably not going to use like tits.
Well,
no.
I mean, not back then.
But maybe now. Maybe now.
Seems totally.
Yeah, bazungas is totally.
On the level
everyone
of
says
knockers.
that.
Everybody says bazungas.
And Kevin was telling me that on his fan sub that his said it was look at those rocket dogs. But it's
Rocket
interesting.
Dogs.
Rocket dogs. Chest rockets.
I've heard of sweater puppies.
But yeah,
Sweater
keeping in the
but I guess they
theme
grow
of
up someday.
Oh God.
keeping in the theme
Into
of
rockets.
get off Shinji's case. Yeah, it's just another scene where people are on his case.
That's the thing. He's not normal. Like he's not fitting in. It's so like, but also here's the thing is again on the Ano has depression level. He's like, everybody's so fucking weird. And then they look at me like I'm weird. And this keeps happening to me all the time. Yeah. Like almost all the sequences are that they're just different, specific text. But in terms of like weird translation stuff, Toji in this scene in the sub I watched is calling Shinji sensei, which I've talked a little bit about honorifics. Honorifics are these like words you put at the end or before to kind of designate respect and it's just manners. It's like you would say sir or madam. It's the same kind of ideas. It's just more complicated. But the thing is, in a lot of situations like these, the character of Toji would say something like senpai, which means basically the same thing as sensei. It's just maybe a bit less formal or a bit more friendly or cheeky, maybe. But it's weird that it's sensei, which is a bit more like like not just formal, but like specific. It's the difference between like professor and chemist. You know, they're both like smart people, but it's like, why would you say like, hey, professor to Shinji as opposed to like, hey, hey, doc? Or so it's like, it does have this weird, I don't know, maybe someone can tell me. But the other thing that you'd expect him to say is Aniki, which means like bro, or like, it's like, hey, bud or bro, which is like, that's normally what you expect. So I just thought it was weird that they're calling him, hey, sensei, and talking to him about love things, because it's like, they're kind of saying like, hey, you're the master of this stuff. Like, what's your take? And then like, do you like titties or wieners or whatever? And he's like, I don't know. But also, Eva has a lot of gay doujinshi and porn kind of made out of it. And like those shots like really seem kind of homoerotically charged, which I'm sure there's more of that comes through, because obviously that stuff comes from somewhere. So they're like reading it in the source material and then extrapolating it. But it's interesting to see it like before it turned into all the porn.
Well, I was just gonna say, the like calling him sensei, to me, a read of that could be that like, because this is very much a scene where they like want him to get horny with them. Like these middle school boys are gonna like talk about the girls they like, and he's so stoic. Could they be saying like, jokingly calling him like an older person who's like above this, you know?
Yeah, it's like, because he's not as horny as
he's
they
like
are.
Not getting into it like they are.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was just something I thought of.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, exactly. I didn't know the judge was here.
Yeah.
The judge never gets horny.
But yeah, also, I mean, the show's laying it on thick that they want you to know that everyone is assuming that because they're both pilots, he has like a crush on
Well, it's interesting because I don't know that the show has revealed up till this point that the world knows she's a pilot. She probably hasn't mentioned anything, but this is the first detail where I think they go like, oh, she's a pilot.
Yeah,
but it's like, when did they learn that? So did they know that? And so they didn't know he was a pilot before, but they strongly suspected it. So it's like, did she tell them? Did they know? Like, it's just interesting. I mean, she has all these injuries. Maybe they put it together.
Yeah, maybe it's just kind of that, like the information that floats around school.
Right.
And then they're like, in that moment, they say it suspecting it but not fully knowing. I don't know. Yeah, they all talk about her like, oh yeah, she's a pilot. But you're right, when he was at the school and they found out he was a pilot, it was like a huge deal.
Yeah, and they never talked about her as a pilot in that context before this episode.
Yeah, they weren't like, oh, there's another pilot at this school.
Right,
like
exactly.
that, you know, you expect them to say that. But
yeah. And they say she's unpopular and weird, and they say that Shinji doesn't even really talk to her, and they don't really know like I don't know, maybe she's like an asshole or something. So then they're doing another test, right? They mentioned a system called Melchior and a system called Balthazar. They kind of sound like AIs or computer systems or something.
Or like Chrono Trigger bosses.
I was about to say, I was like, Melchior. I fought that guy.
He made the sword.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And they also mentioned protein wall thickness, which is another like, how do protein walls factor into all this robot shit? Like, where are the protein walls? That like
makes
cellular.
me wonder if there's going to be like protein deposits in the Evangelion's brain, causing robot Alzheimer's.
Isn't that like the ends of your nerves have like protein walls that signals pass between, or some kind of thing like this?
A lot of stuff has protein walls.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but I think you're thinking of the myelin sheath, and that being something that like neuron can degrade over time.
I think he is too.
But it's Alzheimer's that's protein deposits in the brain that
like
build
plaque.
up, and that causes.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm just saying that I think that the protein. Never mind. Anyway, they could be related to the nerve connections.
Cellular.
It is though.
I'm not talking about deposits. I'm talking about walls.
Yeah, like protein walls are like cellular structures generally, like before they're tissues or something.
They'll like
cells.
let stuff in and out of cells, if I remember correctly from high school biology.
Yeah,
the protein doors.
Yeah, they have these enzymes. I'm out of my depth at this point.
Yeah, me too.
And I love being out of my depth in ways that I'm comfortable, like this. So Shinji's watching her take the test, and so Gendo walks up.
Wait, have we been to her apartment already?
I'm sorry. I'm
totally lost here.
Why did I skip this whole thing? I skipped the whole thing. It's not in my notes.
Because we go to dinner next, right?
No, because so we go to dinner next, and so this scene is just thanks guys. This is why we need people to watch the show. But so we go to the house, they have dinner, right? And it's this scene, and we could talk about different parts of the scene, but like it's this comedy food beat. But let's get into that later. So let's talk about the food.
It's apparently very bad.
It's really bad. This is a classic anime trope of like a woman who like everybody can't cook and people are hiding it in various ways. It's always a woman. Like I don't think I've ever seen like a guy who can't cook in an anime ever. I don't think. I'm sure I've seen it once, but it's like the trope is always a woman and everybody's always lying about it. And,
like crazy
and it's like funny because like,
why would you put a pickle?
How unladylike, she's making bad curry.
Yeah, and it's boiling bag food where you just add water. And then the thing is, I don't know if that was translated or if it was in the subs, but she says like, I find you should add less water, which is like, that's how you make everything crunchy and terrible. You know, like that's such a funny.
It'd be like over flavored, right?
Yeah,
like
it's almost like in Futurama, there's the idea that Bender loves to cook, but because he's a robot, he doesn't know shit about taste. And so he's like, well, why wouldn't you want it to be gloopy?
Yeah.
And too salty.
Right.
I was happy to see the penguin again.
Yeah, that was my favorite bit there. Is the penguin, first of all, the fact that she gave the penguin a beer with the meal. And then, the penguin sniffs it, or does he take a bite? And then it passes out.
He sniffs it and his whole color changes. I'm really counting on this penguin to come in a crucial moment late in and save the day.
I expect this
I don't
to
know
be
if that'll
used in a
happen or
crazy
not,
way.
but I'm really, that's
it's
inside
so funny.
of me.
When he smells or tastes the food, it's like the background goes all Jackson Pollock.
Yeah,
like
it's so good.
And it's the same kind of backgrounds that goes on when she's hooking into the
startup sequences of the pilot plug.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like really funny that it's like your brain is getting like completely fucked right now.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it in the past, but again, that's like old animation where you have like the foreground cell and then the back, and then it's just all you do is take out the whole thing. You just put like a book from something else or like a painting you found, and you just put it in the machine. And it's and so but it's like it's such a simple trick, but it looks amazing. It looks so good, and it's like
it's very expressive.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, that hand-drawn look. Nothing looks hand-drawn anymore because nothing is. But but it's like it's such this unique look, and it's fine that stuff's not hand-drawn. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying like it is very unique.
No, it's not. You don't need to say that to all these people who like it not hand-drawn. You can like what you like.
Once you find out
there's good ways to do it.
Quote-unquote 2D animation, especially it's the stuff on Netflix, is actually 3D but made to look 2D.
Yeah, that stuff bumps
you
me
can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Like I was watching that. This is a bit of an aside, but
it's okay.
The Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie, part of the idea is that Chip or Dale, one of them got like the 3D upgrade, but the other one is still 2D. But I could see that they were both 3D objects.
Right.
Like I was like, these are both 3D. One is just styled to
and you
look
can
too.
fix that too. You can still do that style and make it not pop like that. Yeah. And I hate when they do it.
Also, making it 3D then make it look 2D. What are we doing? That's too many steps. It's obviously much easier to just do it 2D to begin with. Let's go back.
I just really like, in terms of storytelling, writing, here, like the way it goes down is this is a sequence. It's a classic anime moment. She can't cook. It's terrible. It's dirty. The Ritsuko's going to have an upset stomach. And she's like, dude, you can't live here with her. You got to get your own place. And he's like, what are you talking about? Or Misato's like, what are you talking about? It would be so much work. For instance, there's this security card thing. Oh, by the way, you got to give Ray her security card. And then he looks at the card and they're like, oh, do you have a crush on her? And isn't it great that you're going to go to her house now, Mr. So, it's like you get an excuse now. And I just think that's really good storytelling because it's all hidden. It's like, no, they're just eating dinner. They're having a natural conversation. And, oh, I just remembered this card. But it's like, this is the perfect way to connect those beats, right? We all write a little bit. Like, so from a writer perspective, I was just like, that's so well done. You don't notice it. The exposition is perfect. It all lays perfectly into everybody's characters. Like you learn anyway.
And it connects it. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I also think it's fucking hilarious to tell a 14-year-old to get their own place casually. Like, oh, you got to start looking. Like this in this market,
Well, he also like pauses looking at the thing they just gave him for a second, and they're like, "Whoa, pretty interested in that thing."
Well, yeah. Once again, on his case, well, he's clearly sort of fixated on this girl, and everyone is very eager to like tease him about it.
Well, that's what's weird. It's
even though there's so many obvious reasons that he would be interested in her. Beyond anyway,
that's the thing. That's what's so weird.
It's not just sexual.
Why aren't they? Why are you so fixated on this mystery girl with blue hair that never talks or has emotions?
Well, and his friends are like, "Are you thinking about her supple calves?"
From the just a military point of view, though, you'd think they'd be like, trained together. Anyway, I don't know. I don't run the Eva program, so I don't know the best way to do it. That's just, something I thought of.
You got to be more like Shinji's dad. Have you thought about that?
I think that's part of it. But I just want to. It just seems like good storytelling. But no, to me, obviously, I think he is fixated on her. I think because we see her wounded in the very first, that's part of why he gets in the robot, right? To save her, to protect her. So I think part of it is like he's just feeling compassion for another human, but also he might feel like might be more than that. Also, like this hot girl might like me, or like I have to save this girl, not just I have to save this human. You know, so who knows? But
I think it's like she's the only one he could possibly relate to is probably what he's thinking too, is that what is she like? She knows what I'm going through.
That's the thing is when I watch that scene and he's looking at the card, to me, I'm not seeing him like staring at a picture of a girl. I'm looking at him seeing the card and going like, why the fuck was my dad acting like that? Talking to this person.
Yeah, no, that's what I think is so great about it is I think it's obviously much deeper. Like I don't think he has like a crush on his mind at all.
Not in that moment. If he does have a crush, that's not what he's thinking about.
And I don't think in any of those moments that he's being hounded for looking at her. I think it's like alienating further, that everyone is like trying to like interact with him in this way, and they just don't even understand at all where he's coming from, and he's just like, all right, whatever, like
that's where I can feel the depiction of depression in a very unique and nuanced way, where when I've been depressed and I'm talking to people in a group and somebody like I'll be thinking in a certain type of way that I think everybody else is, and then they'll be like, oh, what do you got a crush on her kind of thing, and it's like that isn't even close to where I wasn't having that conversation. What? And you feel even more alienated.
Yeah, my parents did that to me at a young age, and it like really fucked me up. And it's something that I'm only starting to think about these days.
That is really fucked up.
It's interesting stuff, the way our parents fuck us up. I mean, that's what the anime is about on some level, But so they're talking about how he's like, oh, he likes her or whatever, and Shinji doesn't know anything. He's like, I don't know anything about this person. And also earlier in the episode, they're like, we don't know her records wife. Like no one knows anything about her. And also she's a blank slate. She never emotes, right? Ritsuko says she's sweet, but she's all thumbs, just like Shinji's father. And she has this really warm look on her face, and she kind of brushes back her hair, which is like, that's classic. Like in pickup artist books or whatever, they're like, oh, if a woman touches her hair, they're interested. So it's like clearly she's like having this sentimental thinking about like Gendo, like about this interaction, which is again when you connect it to like her horrified look, like, oh, maybe that's what she was worried about. She thought he was going to get killed trying to save Rei or something, but that definitely feels like something we're supposed to be tracking. And then they say he's bad at life. And so that indicates that Rei's bad at life too. So these are both characters that are bad at life. Yeah, man, we would have blown past like all this shit. Jesus Christ. My notes are out of order. That's what happened. I'll have to get it back into order. So Shinji goes to drop off the card. Rei lives in this crazy place, huh? Like we were talking about how there are these brutalist looking structures that were maybe built in Tokyo 2 after like the first impact or something. So like they look really fucked up.
Yeah, this place is like a dystopian slum. Like the architecture is terrifying to begin with, and now it looks old and fucked up and abandoned.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hadn't realized until this viewing how concrete blocky it is and how like cold all the walls obviously are. And it makes a lot of sense that it would be like, if it is Tokyo 2 or Tokyo 3 constructions, that it would be these kind of more hastily but very strong structures that were a reaction to what had happened with the destruction of the city.
Right. And then I think I guess my read is also that like no one lives in the apartment. I don't think a single person lives in that building.
Because nobody's taking, it doesn't seem like even new trash.
Yeah, no, what it looks like is when you see like urban old like Soviet blocks, like apartment blocks where there's like 5 people still living in this whole city block or something like.
Yeah, I definitely think we're to believe that potentially, like, literally no one is ever there but her ever. And I guess the mail carrier.
I think you must be right, too. I'm just thinking more about the city being abandoned because they, like, send Shinji here by himself. And the place is, like, so derelict that if it was crowded, you would never send a kid there alone.
And there's so many apartments. And she's also, like, up on the 4th floor.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, like, there's, like, a row of, like, 8 identical buildings. They all look completely destroyed. Like, a lot of them look like they couldn't even be lived in any piece of it,
Yeah.
And they're all abandoned. So this is probably a place that's, completely abandoned.
It's like the most depressing, isolating apartment building ever. And the inside of her apartment is even worse.
Yeah.
Is that escalator a part of the building? I hadn't considered
that was at their work.
Okay, that was
that's like
that's
at the headquarters. Yeah.
I was okay.
So the color design here is pretty interesting. We see the mail slots full. There's open mail scattered places. Shinji kind of like he stumbles with taking off his shoes because in Japanese households, there's like this entryway where you take off your shoes. And like the whole place is super dirty. Like the point is it's supposed to be dirty and clean before you take off your shoes. And then everything else is supposed to be super clean. But what we see is there's tons of dirt being tracked in, which means whoever was coming in never took off their shoes.
Yeah, there's shoe
and
prints.
they never cleaned up either. Like, and not just some shoe prints, like light shoe prints over several years or something, so
a trail has been made.
Yeah, there's like a layer of, grease and shit on the floor. Like it's thick.
Yeah, but
dirt.
like Shinji's like looking at this and he's being like, well, in a situation like this, do you even take off your shoes? Like, because it seems like the worst is already, now I'm just going to make my socks dirty. Like, so it's like such a quick moment, but I think like if to a Japanese person, they would be clocking like, like that. And I just thought it was pretty interesting. So place is dark. There's tons of blood. There's tons of bloody bandages. There's so many bloody bandages. There's like months of old bandages probably, right?
Yeah. This looks like a shut-in has been like recovering from an injury alone in here.
It kind of looks like a serial killer's place, just not like, oh, they've done stuff. This is bizarre enough that no one would live like this other than a serial killer. But there's no evidence of, bodies. So you see Gendo's cracked glasses and Shinji kind of catches their eyes. It seems like he doesn't notice they're Gendo's glasses. It feels like he just sees glasses.
I read it as he like sort of recognizes them, but is like, they can't be.
Right.
Are those the ones that were
true.
supposed to have melted?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're right, where he thinks maybe they're his. He's not sure, but he puts them on. And then he turns around and he sees Rei. She's naked. She got out of the shower. She's toweling off. I just like that shot of her, like her kind of upper body with the towel like that or whatever. That's like one of the more iconic shots in all of anime. I've just like, since I was a kid, I've seen that shot like everywhere online. Like, it's just so interesting to see that shot like in motion, I don't know.
Yeah. I also want to highlight the sound design of this scene because the whole time there's this one sort of droning kind of clicking sound. It almost sounds like an air conditioning unit or something that's like cycling, like just like happening in the background. It sounds totally dead. Just sort of this like unpleasant kind of machinery kind of vibe. Like, and it just feels like repetitive and emotionally like deadening.
Yeah.
And yeah, when she sees him, she doesn't react at all, even to him.
Yeah, she doesn't react, and that's like I think something you clock as weird. Is this is a girl naked being looked at who's not reacting to being looked at, and so he doesn't react. And but then here's the thing: is she does get a glare. She strides over to him and like snatches the glasses off of his face, and she's angry in that moment. And that's honestly like the first emotion she's ever had like in the whole series. I think is like this angry face she has just then, and then the second she has them and they start to fall over, like then they so then as this is a classic anime trope, it's like I didn't commit sexual assault. I promise it was like random events, but so and it's always like engineered and it's like.
Are you saying that this moment actually played out differently than we were shown?
Well, that's
and
what's
that this
weird
is a lie,
so
and he actually went into her apartment and intended to assault her.
Are you guys familiar with harem animes?
I mean, I think I understand the idea. I don't know if I've watched
in
one.
harem animes. That is a lot more strongly the contention.
Oh, okay.
In this moment, it's not, but it's like you see the through line of what it's becoming. It's like, Jesus.
Because, I guess what I meant to say earlier, too, is she does react, but not in the way we'd expect. She doesn't try to cover herself up at all or anything. She just goes for the glasses.
Yeah, she only cares that he's touching the glasses.
Yeah.
They're precious to her, it seems, and so she snatches the glass. He starts to explain. She grabs him and like he steps back or pulls her. Like, anyway, what happens is his bag catches on the open cupboard. It pulls the drawer. They all fall on top of each other, and a drawer full of her bra and underwear is like flung across the room. So she's on top. She's on the ground. He's on top of her. They're in this like compromising position. Again, this is like a classic anime trope. Everything's still, and then like a rainbow arc appears in the room. Very strange.
Well, I love the pacing of this. like it like slows down as he like realizes this, and like just has like a bunch of angles on it, like of like her eyes and his eye, and then just like we like really take a long moment to marinate in like, oh fuck.
Well, yeah, it's this kind of amazing moment of like slapstick drama almost, where it's like crazy and funny how it plays out, and then they hold on the awkward. He's grabbing her boob. For like 10 seconds.
Yeah. And then she's like, can you move? And he's like, oh God, he gets off. But it's interesting because, again, like he sees her naked, no face. She sees he has glasses, angry. She gets the glasses back to no face. They fall. He's on top of her, still no face. Like she has no visible reaction to being groped, not even uncomfort or discomfort. Her voice betrays a little bit of like, I don't like this, but she isn't like, I'm afraid to say anything. It's more like, this is me. This is how long it takes for me to think of to say something.
It feels like this is how she'd react to literally anything.
Yes.
Like anything going on, this would be her reaction.
Well, and my read is, since she's a pilot, she probably has felt such insane pain from being ripped apart and feeling your arm ripped off and all these different things that it's like, I don't care what's happening to my body that much. All you did is touch my boob. Like, I've had much worse.
Yeah, I have like kind of a deeper read on it. We'll get to in the next scene, but I think she like doesn't even associate with her life outside of being a pilot.
Right.
Like, I think she doesn't even like have emotions for her day-to-day life, if that makes sense.
This is like a trope. Like there's an anime called Haruhi, which I think kind of borrows some, but there's this girl in Haruhi that's a lot like Rei, and I think they're supposed, and she's like a robot. And so it's like this trope of this flat, emotionless, seemingly like robotic character is like, that's definitely her trope. What that is, if it's clone, if it's like an alien, if it's like, who knows like what that's coming from. But I think we're definitely supposed to read her as like, she is this trope of this kind of emotionless, I don't know what things are kind of.
Reminds me, not that this is like a bastion of great storytelling, although I do enjoy it a lot. In the Avatar movie, James Cameron's one, Sigourney Weaver's character like only cares about her body when she's in the Avatar, and it's like this whole thing about that's why she's a smoker in real life, and she's like, "Where's my damn cigarette?"
Yeah, I feel like it's like that. Like I think she like
I don't care about
is
this
more
body.
Eva than child. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so like, and that's the thing. And so she gets up, she starts dressing, but the thing is, once she's dressing, she's turned away from him, but it doesn't feel like she's like embarrassed. She's just like, it almost feels like out of politeness. Like, I wouldn't want to do this. Like, I just got to get my clothes back on. Like, so it's like, I have no reaction to any of this other than the glasses, which upset me, and now that that's over, now I don't care anymore. It's fine that I'm naked. I'm just going to put on my clothes, let's, and like, he's watching her and she's like, what? Like, because he's staring at her and she's like, what are you staring at? Like, shouldn't I put my clothes on after this? Like, what doesn't make sense here? Like none of what's happened is weird, other than she was mad. Are you
looking at my bazongas?
Well, that's not what she's saying. Like she doesn't like, because that would be normal.
And he's like mortified this whole time. Of course, I love that after this, they're going to the same place, and she doesn't even like talk to him at all.
Yeah.
Like they like walk across the whole city, like 5 feet apart from each other.
Well, that's the thing is, because that scans like she's mad at him, but it's not clear she is, like, because she snatches the ID from him, and that's like it's coded as angry, but it's like I'm not sure if she is or not, because again, like when she says what, like her reaction is more like, yeah, you're looking at my naked body like you're having some reaction to that. Why are you having some reaction to my naked body?
Yeah.
That's weird. Like, is that something that people do? Do they have reactions to naked? Like,
everybody else in this show would have been like, look at what he's doing.
But that's the thing. She's just annoyed. She's like, what? Is something weird? Is there something on my face? Like she doesn't clock. Like she just doesn't clock anything.
Yeah, it's not like she's personally upset with him, but she is very just like annoyed at his presence. Like she just wants him to go away. It feels like.
So I think like if you extrapolate just from that moment, if she cares a lot the glasses, like he maybe almost damaged something precious to her, and she's just kind of raw about that moment. That seems maybe pretty good, like as an interpretation without knowing. Like I don't know if there's any bigger moment. Obviously, she cares about Gendo, but like I don't know.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what this sets up so nicely is the conflict between them, that she like loves his father,
and
he like hates him.
That's the thing. Because again, she's never emoted until things related to Gendo, and that's about to peak when they're going down this giant fucking escalator.
Yeah. And isn't that like also true of his father? Like the only emotion that he's seen of his father is related to her.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. I think that's like what's so weird about him, and he hasn't seen like I got ahead of myself with the test, but like at this point, the only emotion. He hasn't seen the emotion in his father. He's just seen, my father's willing to damage himself. That's really weird. Right. Like, I haven't put this together. Yeah. And then it does seem like Ray might be a piece of it. Like when he's looking at her picture, just because he knows, he did this because of this person called Ray and this is her picture. This seems to connect my father. So it's like, I don't think like he knows what it means because he doesn't know what his dad does. He just knows his dad did something really out of character for what he knows about his dad, But anyway, so she's like, why don't you have more faith in your dad? And he's like, have faith in that piece of shit. I lived alone for my whole life. Like I lived in an apartment alone, he's a piece of shit. And then again, this is one of the only times she has emotion. She turns around very upset, very angry, and she slaps him and she's offended by him saying that. And it's like, again, the only emotion she fucking has.
I'm really hoping for an Ava fight between the two of them. I want to smack down over this.
Yeah.
Your dad is cool.
Yeah. So I like that a lot. There's this moment where she touches her bodysuit and it like sucks in to be body tight. It's just really interesting, fetish content or something like.
Well, I was gonna say I love that shot and this whole sequence because the sound design of the earlier scene is like going like until she like puts her card up to get into this building and jazz begins. And like her whole demeanor like changes when she's like in this place and she starts putting on the suit.
She's getting
and you
ready
see the
to
moment she like it tightens on her and it looks like it tightens on her, but she like is relieved. Like her body loosens when she's wearing the suit. Like
then so you look at her living in her apartment, it's this hellhole in an abandoned hellscape. And then it's like, for a person like that, now you come to a world where everything is protected and it makes sense.
And it's like, this is the whole sequence. You feel like this is her place of comfort. It's like the opposite of Shinji, who like doesn't like being here that much. She like loves
my
it.
purpose
like, this
is here.
Yeah,
like I'm like getting into the reason I'm alive.
So that's really interesting because when I was reading it, my read was, I think you guys are right, but mine was more like, okay, we had this first test, right? And the first test went wrong. And this is the second test and we see it go right. And it's her brain and she's like in a different mood. And so it's like, maybe she's also just in a better mood this whole time going into it. And that's what's coloring the test going well. And so it's like, before we didn't know her mental state. We just know the test failed. But now we're being given the information. She seems to be in a good mood and this test goes well. And she seems to be relieved that the test went well, so also it could be just that but also I do think like to an alien who lives in a government facility, the government facility would feel more home than a weird apartment.
Well,
right?
yeah, and I just, the thing I react to the most strongly is that like in her apartment, it's like this anti-music in the background. And then as soon as she's at work, it's like this beautiful, like light, relaxing jazz is like playing.
This podcast rocks.
Before we move on from the escalator, I want to mention how insanely long and continuous it is and how surreal it would be to be standing on that thing. The only time I've seen an escalator that even remotely was like that was with the London Underground, which I believe was rebuilt after World War II with the Blitz and like all the bombings that happened. They built it like way underground. And what's weird is like in most American places that you see escalators, they only go about one floor's length and then there's a break and then you would step on another one and go further. But these are just straight from the street to like hundreds of feet underground and you feel like you're going to fall over. And I always imagined like falling over on the one that's going up and just never getting to the bottom of it.
Sure, yeah.
But, anyway, I just wanted to comment on that because I think it's such a weird type of construction, but it also was post-World War II bombing construction in London.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, maybe they're going down very deep. I hate this escalator. I would hate being on this escalator. It really needs like a floor below it, like so you just don't look over the edge and you're in the middle of the sky and feel like this thing could break in half.
Yeah.
Like that's what I mean. It's
but it's
even
not
weird
real
when
anyway,
it's not
so
like that.
It's not
when
real.
It's not just
real.
up in the sky.
But
the escalator from Evangelion isn't real.
But the thing is like before that shot, I think you see that long golden shot of the geofront, the whole dome, and it's like That's under the ground. They start at the surface and take the escalator maybe to the very bottom of the whole geodome, which has a mountain inside of it. Like geofront, not geodome. But I like that sequence a lot. Just because she slaps him. I don't know. It's fun. But so the test goes well. And then as it's going well and she's calming down and she's remembering like when Ritsuko says, oh, Gendo's injuries were when she saved Rei, which, she didn't hear. She wasn't there for that conversation. But clearly, that's what she's thinking about. So again, if it isn't just about this is her safe place, if it is about, she's in a good mood. Well, what happened is she was feeling conflicted, maybe about the fact that Shinji's a really good pilot, right? And so that's fucking up her brain and she can't reach the absolute limit line. And then after being saved, she's like, oh, this guy, I love Gendo so much. He's so good. And she's like thinking about that and he saved me. Oh my God. And she was so happy that she passed the test, right?
I bet now that you say that, Shinji showing up fucked her up because she was like, now I have competition for like the love of this person. And then realizing that Shinji has a bad relationship with his father might like set that at ease.
Well, that's the thing is I think that is what happened is she's just unstable. And then this event.
He must care about him.
Yeah. So it's like for Rei, like obviously we're tracking Shinji, but in this episode, if we're tracking Rei, what happened is she almost died. This guy saved her life. She seems to, from that point on, really like that guy. Maybe she liked him before. Who knows? But she's really positive towards this guy. And then the son that has maybe complicated this thing says, my dad fucking sucks. I hate that guy. And it's like, oh, wait, this kicks ass. He saved me and he hates him. Like this, all my problems are solved, so maybe, that's a level of it too.
I hadn't thought of the slap as like one of those moments of like, don't talk about your father that way. Like it's just, it's so obvious that it is. But
how'd you read it?
Well, I know that is what it is, but I think I just like didn't make the connection to the human experience of being of like you have your relationship with your parents, and sometimes you'll talk about that with somebody else, and they will be like, I can't believe you would say something negative about your mom.
I was like, if somebody slapped me after I said that about my own family member, I would push them down that escalator.
Well, that's the thing. Again, that's what Shinji, like, think about that. If that happened to you and you're Shinji, like, I don't think you.
Yeah, you're like, you don't know my fucking relationship.
Well, I know. That's why I want them to fight. I want him to be like, no, you have no idea.
But here's the thing. Before that, I don't even think he's like, you have no idea. I think he's like, why would that happen?
Right. Well,
what pieces
says
would
it
make,
like,
I don't even get what dynamic, like what triggered, like what does she think? Because again, like from her thing, like it's more that it's not that like what your interpretation is. You're talking about your parents, but the way her reaction is more like you're talking about my dad.
I think she's very defensive of him. That's right. She's like not even gonna let his own son talk about him.
But I have had people like say like, oh, you're hard on your parents or whatever, and I am hard on parents. But also that's different than someone being like, I'm offended by the way you're talking about this person that I actually really like.
Yeah, if somebody physically assolted me and was like, you will not speak about your parents like that, I would be like, and you will not speak to me like that.
But yeah, exactly.
But I'm not Shinji. I'm not 14 anymore.
Well, that's the thing. And
if you were 14
and a girl slapped me, I don't know what I would do. Well, never mind. I probably wouldn't push her down the escalator.
I think it's interesting to consider.
With me today, I would.
I would.
What did Shinji like? What was his life before? Because maybe he didn't have any friends. Maybe no one slapped him before. Maybe he just had no contact.
It sounds
so he got punched by Choji and then gets slapped by Rei. He's like, everybody's just hitting me. What? And then I got my arm ripped off and my face exploded by
just reacting. Am I not allowed to? Are my feelings not valid?
They kind of aren't in the show. No one is validating his feelings.
One day he's going to be paying a lot of good money to have people slap him while he talks about his father. And he's not going to know why he feels compelled to do this.
I thought you were going to say pay a lot of money for therapy to work through these feelings.
That's the healthier version.
No, the unhealthy version.
That's the realer version.
Oh, come on. That's not that unhealthy.
It's not that unhealthy. You're right.
It's real.
I just mean,
real.
Yeah.
So the neural link synchronized. It works. The test goes well. The fifth angel approaches. It's determined that Rei's angel isn't ready for combat, even though the test is successful. Which the staff people are like, well, why aren't we using? Which indicates to me that the staff maybe thinks that the mech is battle ready. And so maybe this is about Gendo is actually just doesn't want to put Rei into more danger and is more eager to put Shinji into danger.
The way I read this was that he would rather save Rey and sacrifice Shinji.
Yeah, that's how I read it too.
And it made me mad.
Yeah. It rocks. It fucking rocks.
They won't give this guy a break.
I know. Stop this. He has to go fight a big fucking polygon that flies in the sky. And
I know.
and I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next
diamond
episode because he's dead now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. The fifth angel, dude, it fucking rocks. It looks like a D8 from D&D, exactly like D8s are the exact shape of it, and it's singing. It's going, boo, you know, it's like doing the sound.
The unknowability, like how would you even start attacking this is so great. Like, and the music is really
well. Yeah, as soon as it cuts to these parts, like the language becomes Godzilla, and it's like these big landscape shots of this big thing, and like looking up at it, and the music is like intense and otherworldly.
I just realized because my notes were out of order, I got the thing. So when they're at the test, like when Shinji's watching like Gendo and him react, like he sees her reacting happily. And so this is like, wait, this emotionless girl is like smiling. And like his face is kind of like horror and shock, you know? And it's like, oh, I guess maybe he does actually have kind of a crush. And which is kind of weird and kind of fucked up because then he looks at his dad and his dad seems like happier than her. And then we go back to his face and his face is so much more horrified. It's not that this girl's like, and my dad is capable of happiness and tender joy. You know,
well,
it's like, it's so much more. And then it's like, and then it starts to be like, oh, I wonder if this is like, man, is this getting sexual? Is it like weird? Like, now I'm getting really uncomfortable for everybody. It's like, and it's like, it's hard to know. I don't know.
Well, I think it's like so genius because it's played exactly like a scene of like a wife seeing her husband with like a lover.
Yeah.
And getting the confirmation that he is cheating. You know, he's like in his mech and he can't like talk to them. But like the whole episode, he's been getting these clues like, why does she have my dad's glasses? Oh, my dad saved her. There's no way my dad cares about somebody and like loves them like a child that isn't me. And then he sees them talking and it's like the confirmation.
Yeah,
oh
like,
my God.
Like, oh, they care about each other.
Right. So my dad
but it's like father son instead of like a love triangle into the traditional way.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
really good.
it's because it's like I thought my dad was broken, but it's like no, he's capable of this and is choosing not to specifically with me on
like,
purpose
there's something
for some
wrong
reason.
with me.
Right.
Is like the yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because again, remember when he beat the robot and got wheeled out on the stretcher? Like, or what? Not no. He beats the robot and his dad, and his robot gets destroyed. And his dad, and he thinks he lost the fight because he blacked out. And his dad just glares at him and disappears down the elevator. It's like, oh, this is how he talks to pilots. And it's like, no, he can talk to pilots and smile at them too.
Yeah,
you know, like it's not. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, this was a tidbit. I think we passed this point in the episode, but there was like a shot that showed where the previous kaiju had fallen, and they had like drawn around its body like chalk, like it was a murder scene.
On the whole, yeah, I think that
like
shot's
across the mountain.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did they feel the need to do that? It made me excited about the idea of like somebody being like, we got to find out who did this.
Yeah.
It's like, they know, but
yeah, they
know,
must
like,
have been
is this
left-handed.
We have to know where this thing fell.
Yeah.
You know, I bet they like scour the whole area for parts that fell off or
well, I do think that the outlines are the outlines of the Eva both times we've seen it, which is interesting because then it's like, yeah, it's not even for the alien. Why do they need to mark where the robot fell?
Yeah, what is the purpose of that? I just thought it was really
It honestly makes
looking.
less sense with the robot.
Because I feel like there has to be a reason that they thought of, you know, unless it's just a funny joke.
It's
that
so
doesn't
really
feel
funny to
like
me.
in
It did
line
make
with
me
the
laugh.
rest of everything they've done.
Well, when we talked about that episode where like he saves the kids, one of the things I mentioned was that like the shot where the robot lands it feels really symbolic, where it's this natural, like traditional, authentic way of like living with the land, kind of Japanese landscape with these torii gates. It's like history and spiritualism, you know, it's natural. And then a robot and an alien smashed down, you know, it feels like intentional symbolism of juxtaposition. And so I think similarly in these shots, these aftermath shots, it's like you are seeing this natural landscape and then you're seeing this scar and this outline of where it was destroyed. And then also in front of that natural landscape, you're seeing these giant warehouses and industrial equipment. So I think it also has this similar like duality of like old and new. But anyway, so the cool thing about the D8 angel is it shoots a laser. It knows where Shinji's gonna pop up. Like, you know, like that's like, it's like they're getting smarter sort of thing. I don't know if we're clocking that or whatever, but clearly it's like it knew where he was gonna pop up. It started shooting before he got there because it knew this guy's a problem for me and we have to really get it right in the bud. And this is a pretty good plan. And it is like, it does a lot of damage to the Eva. And that's like the cliffhanger for the episode, right? Is that, man, Shinji is fucked because he's getting really burnt on his chest.
Well, it's like he gets put into emotional pain and then he gets shot with a laser that makes his insides burn. He's screaming in pain.
Yeah, it's just like when we talk about this is like the scream of a man who doesn't know what illness he's trying to scream about. It's like, yeah, it is really like that. You know, it's like you see your dad and then you get shot by a laser from a D8 in space that's singing, you know? It's relatable. And that's our show. No, okay, so but any final thoughts?
I can't wait to see where it's going. It feels really weird to be like doing fan theories about a show that's been out for a long ass time.
I like it though. I like it.
But
I think
I'm
it's fun
sitting
to do
here
too.
going like, I bet the Evas are like based on angel technology and they're actually the same thing. And there's like some deeper secret to all of this. Anyway, I love it. It's a work of art. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. What about you, Jeff? Any like anything we maybe missed that you didn't talk about?
No, I think we pretty much hit it.
They need to go on.
I really love, I don't know how many different forms of the translation of the theme song there are, but I really love the translation of it and the poetry in it. Like, when a blue wind knocks on the door to your heart, you just gaze back at me and smile oh so gently. So eager for something you touch so softly, those innocent eyes know nothing of the fate that awaits. But one day you will realize that upon your back you have the wings that you could fly to the faraway future. The cruel angel's thesis. One day you'll take off through a window. If your overflowing pathos leads you to betray your memories, then embrace the heavens and shine bright. Become legend, young boy.
See, like, it's so
Jesus.
good. I find it so hard to interpret. I mean, obviously, I think, you know, you can tell that I try to really hard to like get into this stuff and understand it on like a deep level. I find it so hard to interpret music because I think music more than other stuff is kind of like, I don't know, I just thought it sounded cool sort of thing. But like, that's like, I would believe it if someone was just like, if it wasn't made for this anime, if it was just a song someone else was doing, but it's like, it feels so symbolic and it's like, I wonder what the deal is.
Well, it sounds like a song about telling the truth to a boy about how this world is awful and you're going to go through terrible things, and when that's done you'll be who you're going to be.
Yeah, and that's going to be what makes you.
I hate that.
I wish that's what I was told when I was a kid.
Like
I feel like the opposite is so much
on your
worse.
door. It's also
nothing bad will ever happen to you, and if it does, it's your fault because you did something wrong. It's so much more fucked up than this is going to be terrible.
Yeah, it really is. We set ourselves up for failure. Like we basically say like, here kids, check out this lie, and then they go like, yay, and then they go, and then at some point you go like, you fucking kids, you believe this stupid lie? And they go like, what the fuck? And they're like, yeah, you fucking idiots, didn't you know better?
Santa
and they're like,
Claus,
wait, you told me, what are you
thing.
talking about? Why did you do this to me? And then we go, that's a problem with kids these days, is that we lie to them and get mad at them for figuring it out.
Well, like the intensity and the poetry, like the flowery poetry of it. We've been watching Shogun lately, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's a fun show.
There's times where like something really fucked up happens, and then one of like the Japanese leaders will turn to like his second in command and be like, write me a poem about that. And the other one will like sit there for a moment thinking and then be like, he basically comes up with a haiku that's about that, and it'll be like, a blue wind knocks on the door, and it'll be like about the kind of, you know,
That's
it's
the
so
thing.
good.
And that's the problem with kids these days in the schools is they're not learning spontaneous haiku technologies training. You know,
they're not being forced to come up with poems under penalty of death.
Yeah. I think society was better when people cared that much about the arts. So a segment I wanted to try out on the podcast is like News of the Weird is like a series of articles I used to read on and like just like I think it was Parade magazine or something. I don't know. But so I wanted to have like news of Japan, like just kind of like Japan nerd news. Like, you know, on That Happens, we talk about stuff that's just relevant to me and just stuff like that, but just like weird headlines for nerd stuff that's like Japan. Like it's maybe not anime, but so this one, like this headline I think gave me the idea. And the headline is, "Sorry, I only drink wine that was aged listening to the Nier Automata soundtrack now." Because they've started selling wine that the selling point is it's being aged while being listened to the Nier Automata soundtrack. Now,
like playing Mozart for
like
for
the wine,
it's
yeah,
for wine.
Yeah.
And being Nier.
So I've played Nier Automata, and Ryan, you played Nier Automata. What do you think the wine would be like after being exposed to it?
I'm trying to remember exactly the music, but you know what I think the wine would be like would be sophisticated with surprising capabilities that no other wine has. Combinations of flavors that you never thought of before. Like it's white and red at the same time now because
nobody ever thought of that.
I think,
and I don't mean rosé. I mean it's both.
It's interesting because it can kind of the flavor can be a little slow to come on, but it doesn't actually start to fully be realized until the second drink through.
Yeah, after you've had 5 bottles of it, you'll never want anything else, and you'll constantly be saying, "Why can't they make another one of these?"
And it's because there's not a lot of geniuses out there who think 7 years ago, let's age some wine to Nier Automata or whatever the fuck. I don't know.
I did try that wine, and I wanted to drink the whole bottle, but I wound up only having the sips that I did.
You guys gotta. It's so good. The thing is, it's a game where it's structured with New Game Plus, kind of like Elden Ring or something, but like the actual runtime of the first game loop is like really meant to just be 30% of the game. So like really the actual story doesn't come online until that. But as a result, that first game is a pretty short loop compared to any other game. But it is a bummer that like you tell someone you have to beat the first like loop before the story kicks in, but it's a great game. Check it out. Nier Automata. I got one other headline before we get out of here. So this is something, how My Neighbor Totoro was almost My Neighbor Craig. That this is like a lore story that I heard. This is old, but it's just been catching the news lately. Apparently, when My Neighbor Totoro is being released or localized here, they were going to call it My Neighbor Craig. Because
That's
Totoro was so bad. American audiences aren't going to understand Totoro. It has to be Craig.
My Neighbor Craig.
So, are you guys familiar with the character Totoro? Ryan's still laughing for the audience.
I haven't seen the movie, but I know isn't he like a giant?
Yeah,
like,
that's all I got.
No, he's like a big monster thing.
Craig. Just that guy's Craig.
You know Craig.
He's Craig. But what happened is that Miyazaki, he put his foot down, and in interviews he said, "I said that he should not be named Craig because I would not like to be named Craig." Which is just really Miyazaki
I would
has
love
amazing
to see
quotes.
that in the like, you know, the style of it's like you hear the interview and then the English is dubbed over and he's very stoically like explaining how he doesn't want to be called Craig.
Yeah.
I just want to see it.
But anyway. That's the thing is like he's Miyazaki specific. All these people can be like really dour and kind of like terse, but like Miyazaki especially, he like you know he went viral for the AI stuff where it's just him like kind of going like, "This hurts my soul."
Yeah,
you know, it's like that's kind of all he says. He's so, but it's just it's so serious. It's like, man, if he says something is bad, you just want to kill yourself. You know, like
I feel like it would be terrible to work under him and realize that the last 2 years of your life was spent making the world worse, actually.
Yeah. We should make sure to check in with Kevin. So I am going to see if I can't like edit in. I don't know what we'll get, but I'll cut that in here. Let's see if we can hack into Kevin.
All right. Logging in. Okay. Kevin, beep boop. Do I have to type? Can I just talk into this thing? Kevin, can you hear me?
Barrett, can you speak up? I'm sorry. I'm in the internet right now. Can you talk a little bit louder?
I know. Oh, buddy, I know. Oh, man. Here's the thing, Kevin. Your life is so weird. You're trapped in the freaking internet right now.
There's so much porn. You wouldn't believe it, Spencer. Like I can't express how much porn there is in here.
I wouldn't believe it. You're right.
Please.
Okay. You up to anything in the internet there? You having fun?
I mean, it's a vacation spot for me mostly. Like I'll come here when I need a break from the real world, and just virtualize myself, and then when I'm done, I come back.
You should check out is the Chrome window when it can't connect to the internet. If you press the space bar, it becomes this little dinosaur endless run game. You should check that out while you're trapped. It's a pretty cool vibe. It's a minimalist kind of line based art style. I think you'd check it out and enjoy it.
Yeah, I find when I'm in the internet, going into like 2D games like that is really like nauseous for me. Like I don't know, I get this sense of vertigo when I lose a dimension. So I really only play like 3D games. Like Doom is a lot of fun if you're in the internet. You should virtualize yourself and try playing Doom. Just like some of the old school stuff like that.
I was reading Popular Science, and apparently one of the reasons that happens is because, when you go to 3 to 2 dimensions, it like completely fucks with your stomach and your inner ear. So, yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I was so excited to be Mario in Super Mario Brothers the first time I did this. I was like, that was the first game I did when I went in the internet. And the first magic mushroom, and then I was puking all over the place. I could not handle 2D.
You couldn't teach typing for the whole day.
I couldn't. No. Mavis Beacon did not like me at all.
All right, well, let's talk about anime. Me and Ryan and Jeff talked about this episode. It was episode 5. It's a Ray heavy episode. But so I don't know. Do you have any initial thoughts before we kind of go through it a little bit?
Okay, so I'm very glad this was not the first episode, okay? Like, I could have seen this airing out of order and this being the first episode because it almost would work as a first episode because it establishes enough. But I'm so glad it wasn't because, honestly, Spencer, like, if you had shown me this episode first, I think I might have bailed on this whole idea because not that I didn't like it. It was just, there was just so many things going on that I wasn't sure how to react to and I'm still reacting to some of them,
Too confident. It's too confident.
There was a lot going on in this one. There was. And, it's, it humanized characters in a lot of ways that I liked, and it, I think, kind of solidified and explained a little bit more his awkwardness around Ray and stuff like that, and it made me feel a lot more empathy towards him and his nervousness and all that, and it did kind of bring me a flashback to being that age and stuff like that too. It's just there was a lot in there that made me go, oh my God, I don't want to be watching this right now. But it was good though. This was a good episode. Please don't skip over this episode if you're like me and haven't seen this. You need to watch it. Just go into it knowing you're gonna have your jaw open a couple times.
Well, see, now this is the thing about anime, and this is in part why I think in the first episode of this anime part where I've been talking about anime, I was talking about how like it can be weird to talk about anime and stuff, and this is an episode that's like that. They have the scene with Ray and him. It's like this moment they share, and like anime does shit like that all the time, and a lot of times in the first episode they do shit like that, and it's hard to get into anime because, again, we talked about it. This is very dense. It's very confident. They leave a lot to the audience to figure out themselves or not, just to be confused by, and it can be a lot. And then especially with some of the gender politics and the humor and the tackiness of like certain things, it can be really off-putting, especially to women, because there's a lot of upsetting stuff. But, I don't know, like, in Western society, we put up a lot of that. It's just what we put up with and what we've normalized is completely different stuff. Who's to say which is more or less fucked up or whatever, and I don't know. There's an argument to say maybe Japanese stuff's more fucked up. I don't know. But it's just like, it's hard. And that's why it's embarrassing to talk about anime, which is why I would like a podcast where I convince people to watch anime so I could talk about the anime to them without feeling more weird than it already is, right? Because again, there are animes where that happens in the first episode, and it's hard. And one of the reasons why I want to start with Eva is because I think it's more masterpiece than weirdness. But there's other animes where you could start and it's not that, and you're like, what the fuck? And I think you kind of have to get desensitized to it a little bit, and maybe that's a bad thing I don't know, but like it's a very specific. But again, like when I'm thinking about the podcast and moving forward, and if we do different anime, it's like I'm very much thinking about like what weird fucking shit do I want to do next? Like this is weird. I almost want to do something that's really silly and light and doesn't go crazy, and then go back to something batshit, just because like it's important to understand the scope, and Eva contains the whole scope of anime within it, even though anyway, yeah, I just wanted to rant off of that, but I agree. But that's like what you just discussed to me is like the hard part of anime. It's this weird thing, and it has this shit that's like, I don't know what to do with this, but we do that with Western stuff. It's just we're used to putting up with certain Western stuff, so it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't make us feel uncomfortable the same way. And again, I'm not trying to say like, and that's because it's better and we're not smart enough. I don't know. I don't have a thesis there, Anyway, do you have any other thoughts before we get to kind of specifics? Yeah, go ahead.
The thing for me too is that, yes, it was a little off-putting, and yes, it was a little shocking in places, but it was honest, which I think is what saves it. Like when the boys at school were kind of teasing him, nudging him, going, "Oh, are you looking at her here? Are you doing this?" Like those conversations happened at kids at that age, whether you want to admit to it or not. And it's not like they were sexualizing it. They were not using it to titillate the audience. They were being honest with it. And they were taking an awkward boy at that age where he's still figuring stuff like this out. And I really empathized with that because, like, I was always the youngest person in my group of friends, and I was always the youngest person in school, because I started school at a place where like you started at 4, not 5, and then moved to a place where you started kindergarten at 5, and they let me keep going even though I was younger than everybody else in my grade. So like I was always the young awkward one anyway, and to have what felt like, at least, I mean, that they were drawn to be taller than him, but other than that, seemingly more older, seemingly more mature, seemingly more together, teasing him and nudging him and, oh, you got a thing for her, oh, are you checking out her legs, that kind of thing. I empathized with that a lot as that was my life at that age. And it was brutally honest in a way that I don't think was inappropriate.
Right. Because he's so behind the curve, and we know he lived by himself. He didn't live with his parents. He doesn't have a mom. His dad's insane. And even if his dad wasn't insane, he doesn't live with his dad, so he's really sheltered. He probably doesn't have interactions like that. And this is the first time he's getting stuff like that. And he's like, I don't know what to do with any of these feelings. You talk about them like this vulgarly, with this level of candor, I don't know what to do with that, and I identify a lot with that. And also in the earlier scene, before that, Shinji sees his dad's scars, and the adults are like kind of making fun of him a little bit, and that kind of triggered me, where it's like my parents have done shit like that, and it really fucks me up. But the same thing with just feeling super awkward, and people, it wasn't even that they were making him feel awkward, necessarily. They were excited to talk about something to him, but that excitement translated to him as like weird, like antagonism, when they were like, oh, maybe we can be normal together. But it's like he thinks that's weird, but they thought it was normal, and I identify with that very strongly too. But yeah, so yeah, it's just it's really good. I think like, up till this point, we know that Shinji, again, one of the first things we know about Shinji is he used to live alone. Like before we see his dad, really, I think we know he's estranged from his dad. And then we see his dad, and his dad is like a fucked up guy who glares at him after he wins the robot battle, right? That's like one of the only things we know about him. And then we learn, oh, my dad doesn't have feelings, he doesn't like anything, but he got burned, and he got burned to save a human. What kind of human would my dad get burned to save, and then this episode is like, wait, Ray is the human that my dad got burned to save. And so I think like most of what we're tracking is, it's so weird why my dad's a human being with feelings. I've never seen any of this, but also like the first episode, he saw Ray and she was injured, and that's why he got in the robot. So he also does have like this weird thing with Ray a little bit, but separately from that, isn't it so interesting? My dad cares about a human, and it happens to be this girl, and that feels like, again, like very triggering to me, like the idea that my parents are capable of caring about something. They just are choosing not to with me. An interesting thing about the pool was like that incline with that pavement thing. I don't know. That's an interesting visual image that I think is very anime. Is that something you recognized, or was that like, what is that? Because that to me is like something I never saw outside of anime. Go ahead.
Yeah, to me, that like I felt like that was supposed to be a metaphor, and I wasn't getting the metaphor basically. But like to me, it seemed almost like they were putting the girls up there on a pedestal and they were out of reach and things like that. But then I thought, no, I'm reading too much into it. This is just artistic design. But still, I don't know. Like I would believe it as though that because it did feel like because they were looking up there and you could almost see them like reaching up, not able to attain what they want, kind of thing. So I hope that was intentional. But
especially
I don't know.
for Shinji, I think that would make sense. So what do you think, like Ray's apartment, did you have any takes on Ray's apartment? Like that was so crazy, right? It's like just her apartment looked like shit.
Yeah, like that I think told me more about her as a person than anything else so far. Because she was always this mysterious thing. And then seeing how just bare and dark and lifeless her apartment seemed. And, especially the part too about how she just walked off without saying anything down, and left without saying a word and things like that. Really, I think explained her character more than anything else had so far. Like the fact that like she didn't even care what his reason was for being there. She didn't like that was so unimportant to her. She wasn't even gonna sit there to find out why he was there.
So I guess like, do you have any thoughts about the finale? Because I want to just ask you big picture about Ray. Like, what are your thoughts on Ray right now? Like, because she is like this mysterious character. So do you have any theories or like how do you feel about that character right now at this point in the story?
I mean, at first I thought she was just this distant, aloof kind of thing. But now I'm starting to see her more as being more broken than he is, like whether it's been the recent trauma of having to pilot these things, or if something happened to her before, but she seems, I mean, I don't want to use the word damaged, but like she seems as hurt and lost and confused as he is. She's just taking it out in a different way, I feel like.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I feel like, she's just sort of on autopilot at this point of just, like when she got to the train station and her card wasn't working and like she almost just like that just seemed to break her for a second where she just like did not seem to know what to do.
Yeah, she didn't have the agency to think to do something else. She's just like you might imagine she might have just kept swiping it forever, like because she just doesn't have the presence of mind to like think too far past that almost, right?
Right. Like I feel like she's just detached herself so much from reality because she's having trouble coping with what's going on, maybe. Did she lose people in this? Like, I know it's like I want to find out the reveal I'm hoping that's coming that explains some of this. But like this made me feel more bad for her than I think almost anybody else in this now at this point, because something bad has happened to her. You don't become like this unless something has made you just disassociate with life.
Yeah, she seemingly has like no sense of self, no ego or something. And in this episode, I think you connect really strongly to like their shared plight in the sense, like, again, he goes to her apartment. She lives alone. Again, we know Shinji used to live alone. They both have this weird relationship with Shinji's dad. So they're both pilots who lived alone, who don't have families, who have a weird complex with the dad. And so they are both broken in similar ways, but how that damage manifested in Ray is like complete acquiescence or something, complete destruction of the self, which when Shinji is kind of dissociating and going into his training trances, when he's like looking all phased out, that is kind of like he's going Ray mode a little bit, he's being more Ray-like, which is kind of like maybe Ray is like a version of a person who just did that all the time, whereas Shinji was doing that sometimes and other times doing different reactions, right? Because he's maybe more like, again, he has probably more traditional damage than Ray does, because he would throw away his bloody bandages, and she wouldn't, so yeah, I think you don't have a good read on her at all. And then what you're getting is, okay, clearly there's something going on. I don't know what it is. It's bothering Shinji, but also, yeah, it seems like they're both in a very similar situation, but she's more fucked up. But interestingly, she like is keeping it together on the surface much better than he is. Like he breaks down publicly in ways she isn't, but it's because he's kind of maybe a bit more socialized and has more presence of mind than her. But as a result, she's like, kind of people, I don't know, the school thinks she's weird and everyone at the government loves her kind of, they're like, this is perfect. She's great. So it's interesting. It's kind of like she makes an interesting foil to Shinji, and she also makes an interesting foil to, a character that comes up in the later series. But so then the fifth angel shows up, it blasts Shinji in the chest. And so, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just interesting to see like what's going to happen with, I think Rey's the most interesting piece of this so far. She's the most mysterious person. You've seen her, like you saw her in the first, like, very opening of the first episode, in a very mysterious way. And since then, she's just been more strange, so it's very interesting. So yeah, any final thoughts before I'm going to try and see if I can't download you onto a floppy drive and put you in the microwave to reconstitute you in the physical realm? I think that's a pretty good methodology, don't you think?
I mean, I'm ready to come home at this point. So, if you got some floppies or like a zip disk or something, any retro technology. But no, the only other thing that stuck out to me was I completely forgot about the penguin until he reappeared again. And then I lost it at the penguin, because that's just like, for something that had been so serious and dark and all this, to all of a sudden go back to this comic relief again, not only I think was needed, but I like the way they did it. Like I like the scene where they sat down at dinner and you kind of realize that, sorry, what's the woman's name that he lives with?
Misato.
Right. That even though she's like supposed to be this total babe and all this, she's kind of gross, a little bit.
Yeah.
And like, yes, she may look like she's all put together and has guys drooling over her. She's not as much of a, she's got her own issues too, a little bit, she's fun. She's not like down like everybody else is in this, but she's kind of got her own issues. The same, she lives with a penguin. She makes disgusting food. She's let this strange boy live with her,
I know that Pen's a character, but I don't think I ever clocked the idea that like Masato is a character who chooses to live with that she owns. I don't know. I was just thinking Pen's there. There's Pen. Here he is. But it's like, no, she owns Pen. She bought Pen or got him in some way. That's just weird. It's weird to think about that. Like, oh, Masato's a person who owns a penguin. I don't know. It's weird to me. It's more normal to think of Pen as like a character like Brian and Family Guy. But it's like, no, it reflects on Masato's character. She's like a weird bachelor who owns a fucking penguin. But to me, yeah, one of the weirdest things about that whole scene is like Masato is a person who feeds instant curry and rice to a penguin. Like that's funny,
yes.
Like that's, you don't have your life together if you're feeding fucking curry. But
she treats the penguin more like a roommate than a pet.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean? Like,
he goes into his own room, like he goes into the shower and like
Yeah, like like it makes me feel like maybe she's very lonely, and this is like because not only does she not want him to move out, but she's also got this penguin pet / roommate,
Yeah.
Maybe it's a case of, she just doesn't like the attention that she gets in the outside world, and that this is her sanctuary where she can just be her weird self, and I get that. So
yeah.
I like that scene a lot, just because I feel like it was needed in such a serious episode.
Yeah, and again, I think the juxtaposition that happens in anime is really interesting, and that's like classic, that sort of thing. It gets a lot more extreme. I mean, there's anime that's like, oh, here's a happy family, and then like the reveal at the end of the pilot is like the whole family is dead and this girl was imagining it and the mom has like maggots in her eyes, and then it's like, oh shit. And it's like it goes shot for shot. It's like, oh, they're happy and having fun. Shot, everyone's dead and rotting, and it's like, so they mess with juxtaposition. It's so hardcore, but it is really satisfying in moments like Eva and stuff when that happens. But okay. All right. So I'm going to convert Kevin into a RAR, and I'm going to set up this lightning rod on my roof, and we'll see what happens.
Hopefully I'll be back in corporeal form next week, guys.
I'm pushing the button.
But that was Kevin, or it wasn't. Probably I won't actually edit this and just leave it all in and cut Kevin's thing in, or not if I don't. So that's our show. Thanks for watching Anime Binge Club. Next week it's just going to be That Happens 150th, or another filler episode because we can't get Kevin onto a floppy disk. So.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much. No one can know about this. A podcast. They're in Thanksgiving land, or aren't you almost out of Thanksgiving land? Huh?
I think it should be over now.
Yeah. So, but check out. You're coming into the end of the season. It's a great journey.
Playing Final Fantasy IX. Go check out No One Can Know About This.
If you've wanted the most in-depth, drawn-out playthrough of Final Fantasy IX that you've ever seen, we've got it.
You can start at the beginning of this season. Is a lot of fun. I think the Final Fantasy VII season is really good, but it's best to start at the beginning, honestly, just because I think the way like the seasons and how you get into the next season, how they kind of snake together, I think is a really interesting journey to follow.
Each season is completely self-contained, but there is kind of a progression that you can see.
I mean, it's the chronological journey of our lives.
Exactly. The evolution of our sensibilities.
And you can definitely tune in on this season, but also it's interesting to tune in at the beginning.
Yeah.
But we have talked about the show probably multiple times before. So, but again, I really like it, and I think you would too.
Thank you.
So do you have any other stuff to plug? Personals, socials?
Nope.
Harmon Quest.
Yeah. If you like me, if you like the stuff I make, I want to make more videos, more silly videos and stuff. So if you like a video that I made, go to Patreon and support me, patreon.com/thesixler to support new videos. I'm going to make another bad video that should be coming out on the next episode. And that's part of why the next episode's being delayed. Well, here's the thing.
It's not going to be bad.
Last week, it could have been 150th, but I had a mental episode that I will talk about on 150th. All right, folks. Until next time. And it's Pitcher Chin, right? Goodbye.